Hello girls, gays, and non-binary babes. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing my January wrap-up. It is a little bit late, but that's okay. We're here nonetheless, and I'm very excited to talk about all of the books that I'm going to be talking about today. I read a lot of really good books this past month, and I'm very excited to talk about them, obviously. So I think we should just get right on into it and start with the first book. You gonna hang out? Okay, good baby. Okay, anyway, so the first book that I read this year was a reread, and I always do a reread of one of my favorite books for my first book of the year, just to start things off strong. So this year I decided to go with They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. And if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you know that this is like my second favorite book of all time, and I just love it so much. This is a female revenge story. It's about, well, it follows two points of view. One is a teacher at this college who is taking it upon herself to deal with or handle the men who are getting away with horrible things on campus. And it also follows the point of view of a girl going to the same school and her life there. So yeah, I freaking love this book. It's so wonderful. It's absolutely amazing, and it's an all-time favorite. Like I said, I love a good female revenge story, and I don't really know what else to say about this. Obviously I gave this one 5 stars, so yeah. Okay, the next book I have to talk about is dedicated to my friend Adam, who has been telling me to read this book since it came out. I've been putting it off because it seemed so intimidating, but I finally read it and I gave it 5 stars, and that is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I don't remember when this came out. It's been a while, at least like 2 years, I feel like. 2021, yep, it's been 2 years. So I loved this. It's so funny that I put it off for so long and I ended up loving it. It does seem really big, but it's not even 500 pages, and science fiction always seems really intimidating to me, but I already knew with The Martian that Andy Weir writes really accessible science fiction, and I should have known that before I picked this up, before I waited so long to pick it up, but I didn't. But I really loved this. This is about a man who goes on basically a suicide mission to help save the planet from an apocalypse, from the sun expending too much energy and burning out, and then we all die in like an ice age, right? So while he is on this mission, he comes into contact with alien life, and that is like the vast majority of the book. I loved every interaction he had with Rocky the alien, and I just love those kind of books where the main character kind of makes a friend that's like not as intelligent as them, but they're just like a fun team, like two idiots sharing one brain cell, you know? And that's definitely how this felt. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad I finally read it. So thank you, Adam, for finally getting me to read this, because I'm very glad I did. So the next 2 books that I read are part of they're companion novels, but they're part of like a four book companion series. And I read Autumn and Winter by Allie Smith. These are from the Seasonal Quartet, I believe it's called, and they all follow different things, but they all kind of tie in together, like companion books you normally do. I read Companion Piece by Allie Smith, which is a companion piece to these books, a few months ago, and I really liked it. So I decided to give these ones a try because I really like the writing and the whole thing overall. But these ones I did not like as much. I gave both of them 3.5 stars, kind of for different reasons. They're both vastly different books, but I liked them in their own separate ways. But the reason I didn't like them enough was because I feel like I can never quite fully understand Ali Smith's books, and there's always something that I'm missing, or like my brain just can't wrap itself around. So yeah, I gave them both 3.5 stars. I don't really know how to explain them. Don't really know how to explain my thoughts on them. But I don't know. If you like really thematic and metaphorical writing, you'd like these. If you don't, you wouldn't, basically. So yeah, I did read another Ali Smith book a little bit later on, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I gave both of these 3.5 stars each. Next up, we have another new fave to talk about, and I talked about this in my book haul, but this is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. And I actually read a library copy of this book, and I bought my own copy of it before I even finished my library copy because I loved it so much and I knew I had to have it on my shelves. This reminded me a lot of Evelyn Hugo in the sense that this takes place in the 70s. I know Evelyn Hugo's in the 50s, I believe, but this is in the 70s, and it follows 3 girls who are trying to make it in, well, at first in their lives and then in Hollywood. And there's a lot of drugs and scandal and drama, and I love fake drama and gossip. That's like my favorite thing ever, and I will eat it up every time. So of course I ate this up like candy. Next up, we have The Wilder Women by Ruth Emmy Lang. I'm not gonna lie, I got my hopes up too much for this one. Ruth Emmy Lang wrote Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance, which is my #1 favorite book of all time. And she hasn't written a book since, and I believe she had a kid, so that's a very good reason to have not written since. Maybe I'm confusing her with somebody else, but I gave this one 4 stars. Really liked it. Really liked it. Obviously 4 stars is not a bad rating. I think it just really pales in comparison to Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance. You really can't beat that book, and it's hard to top it, especially when that was your debut. So yeah, this one's about 2 girls whose mother abandons them when they're really young, and they grow up later and go on this big adventure to try and find her. And there's a lot of little bits of magic in there, just like with Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance. It almost kind of feels like it's the same world, and I really like that. This one just felt like, I don't know if this makes sense, but this one had too much plot. Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance, I feel like, didn't really have a plot. It kind of meandered around and came to things and looked at them and then kept going, and this one had a strict plot, and I like that. I'm not saying I don't, but I feel like I like Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance more. So yeah, really like this one, but not better than her first book. Next up, we have another book that I've been putting off for way too long, and that is Seasonal Fears by Shauna McGuire. If you know me, you know I love Shauna McGuire and all of her books. I got an ARC of this before it even came out, and I never read it, and only just now did I get my hands on a copy and finally read it. And I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I don't know why I put it off for so long, thinking I wouldn't like it or something along those lines, but I loved it, unsurprisingly. This is a companion novel to Middle Game, and it's set in the same universe. There are a few of the same characters that we meet again in this one, but overall the plot is very different. This one's about basically a Hunger Games style-esque competition, and our two main characters are at like the height of it. Like they are competing to be like king and queen of summer slash winter. And I think I explained it in my book haul as like cottagecore Hunger Games, which I stand by that. I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of magic and murder and fun stuff like that in this, and I loved it. What more can I say? Unsurprisingly, I loved it. So yeah, I think I've learned my lesson with putting books off at this point. Hopefully I've learned. I probably haven't, but you know. Speaking of putting books off, we have next up The Hunger by Alma Katsu. I remember hearing about this book like a year ago, and I put it like on my Goodreads want to read shelf, and in the meantime I forgot what it was about. And so when I picked it up from the library a couple weeks ago and reread what it was about, when I tell you, I put down the book I was currently reading and picked that one up and started it immediately. This is a supernatural twist on the Donner Party. I feel like a lot of people have heard about this book. It was just me that was kind of out of the loop, but yeah. I have a very morbid fascination with things like the Donner Party, so this felt very much right up my alley, and I love supernatural stuff as well. So it's like me in this book, we're a match made in heaven. A match made in heaven. And it turned out really well. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. I love the drama and the danger and all of that good stuff within this book. I did read The Deep by Alma Katsu a couple years ago, and I didn't really like it. I didn't really like that supernatural twist, but I did really like this one, and it was very good. And it's like a new favorite of mine because it was just so fun. And I learned about a lot more about the Donner Party. I'd never really known that many details, but this one is very like accurate and well researched, and it was just really good. And I feel like overall it's a very well-rounded book. It's entertaining but factual and all this different stuff. So yeah, it's fantastic. Loved it. If you're interested, I would recommend it. The next book that I read was the other Ali Smith book, and that is How to Be Both. This follows 2 timelines. One is a girl who just recently lost her mother in present day, and her mother was really like obsessed with this painting, and the second timeline is the artist that painted this painting during the Renaissance and his life. And I really like this. I really like the theme of this one, but again, I just could not like fully wrap my head around everything that was supposed to be being like construed. I didn't quite get it, so that's sad. But yeah, I gave this 3 stars. I thought it was okay, but I liked it. Ali Smith is just, I guess, hit or miss for me within like the same book. Like some of it's a hit and some of it's a miss. I don't know. It's so hard to explain. But yeah, I gave this 3 stars. I don't think I'll be reading any more Ali Smith, sadly enough, but yeah, that's just me. The next book I read was also a 3-star book, and that was Let the Right One In by John Ajvide Linkvist. I think it's Swedish, so I do not have the capabilities of pronunciation there. Anyway, this is a vampire story, and it follows a young boy in Sweden who meets this girl. She's a vampire. He doesn't know that at first, but they're like 12, I think, and I didn't know this going into it, but it's more of a coming of age slash romance book, and had I known that going into it, I probably wouldn't have picked it up. I just would have watched the movie because I really wanted to watch the movie, but I wanted to read the book first. And yeah, I was just a little disappointed. Like I said, I gave it 3 stars. I was expecting more of a horror aspect to it, but there wasn't very much of one, just the vampire thing, and then the very end, if you know, you know. But yeah, I'm also not in general a big fan of reading about pedophilia, so that really turned me off of it. Next, we have another reread, and that was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. This is a really good vampire book. I actually think I wrote in my little review here that this is probably like the best vampire story I've ever read, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. I think it's going to be that way for a long time because this is just so fantastic. If you've been living under a rock for the past few years, A Dowry of Blood is a retelling of Dracula and his wives, or in this case his partners, and it's told in letters written by his, at this point in time, first wife. And we know from the start that she has killed him, and she's writing these letters to him after she has killed him, and we just get to find out why and what happened, their life together, and it's just really good. It's really queer, it's polyamorous. I loved it. You can't go wrong with this one. If you like vampires and you're okay with a little bit of smut, then I present this to you on a silver platter. Yeah, what more can I say about this? I gave it 5 stars. It was fantastic. And the final book that I read in the month of January was The Idiot by Elif Batuman. This I gave, how many stars did I give this? 4 stars. I really liked this one. I actually picked it up because it was recommended as like, and if you like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, you'll like this book kind of thing. And I think that's very true. This definitely has a lot of the dry humor and kind of satirical thing that My Year of Rest and Relaxation has going on. This one is about a girl who is going to university, and it just follows her life, deciding what she wants to do with the rest of her life. And she meets this guy and she falls in love with him, but she's like super obsessed with him, like obsessed with him. And it's very relatable and real. There's no real plot to it. It just kind of follows her going through university. And the only reason I docked a star for this was because of my overall enjoyment, because I didn't go to college ever, so I feel like I didn't get the full effect of this book. But if you did, then I imagine you would really like this one. It definitely reminded me also of Honey Girl in that kind of sense of like the whole stress of like college and what am I gonna do with the rest of my life. So yeah, I think this was a lot of fun, funny. It's great. And if you like My Year of Rest and Relaxation, then you'd like this one too, because I certainly did. And that is going to do it for today's video. Leave me a comment down below if you read any of the same books, or maybe what you read this month, your favorite book you read this past month, or just say hi if you want to. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.